Hello, Caroline.
Hi everyone, how are you doing?
I was waiting then. There was like this such a big gap then. I was like, oh.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Feminine Force, our Monday show. How are you, Elisa? How are you doing on the Sunshine
I'm
Coast?
I'm sensational. I've been spending lots of time in the ocean the last couple of days and it's been magnificent. So feeling very blessed.
Oh, amazing. I know,
A
I've
little
been
bit
listening.
sun-kissed, but
Lovely. And
that's
you were
good.
telling me how you were swimming in the ocean and while you were
Mm,
working, which is, getting
yeah,
paid for it,
I
which is
know. Yeah,
living the
it's
dream.
pretty good.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, everyone, we are delighted to have your company here, and we're continuing on the conversation like we always do. And last Monday, we had a couple of questions on YouTube from viewers, and they wanted to talk to the emotions whisperer, Lisa, and asking a question around toxic relationships and how to heal from the emotional wounds of a toxic relationship. So it's one thing, I suppose, Lisa, realizing you're in a toxic relationship and moving out of it. So there's a huge, journey in that. But once you've actually come out of that relationship and you're starting to rebuild your life,
Mm,
what, from your point of view, professionally and personally, in your own life experience, do you feel are the challenges, and also what are the strategies for
mm,
yourself to move on and not just to repeat the same pattern, which is really,
yeah,
really important, and
yeah,
to care for yourself and to kind of move on and rebuild this life with a positive
yeah.
attitude, yeah, to relationships even, yeah.
Well,
Can
it's a
you?
great opportunity, Caroline, isn't it? Like when you leave a toxic relationship, and I've left a couple of them. So I can speak from experience too. And it is challenging. Like we learn a lot while we're in the relationship and I learned so much leaving the relationship. But by far, I like for me, when I actually had left the relationship and I was looking back and I was seeing all the things that I didn't see. That used to
Mm,
just blow my mind, like and even now, like, I can just driving along and just have a memory and just go, "Oh my gosh," like, see what was really happening that I never saw at the time,
mm,
and it's really easy for me to have a bit of a feeling around that, like, I have to be very compassionate with myself because it's
mm,
really hard to sort of go, well, you're a smart woman and
mm,
you just didn't even see that, and how does that, like, I remember when I left my first husband, I used to just think, how could I have not seen? How could I have not even known that the
mm,
relationship I was in was like just there was a much better way of being in a relationship, but I just didn't know. I just sort of thought that was normal, right? And I've got a lot of clients that say that to me, "Oh, but it's normal, isn't it, that you fight and argue?" And I think, well, actually, no. If you can express yourself emotionally,
mm.
you shouldn't have to have those blow ups. Yes, there's conflict, but you can navigate it, in a way
Mm,
that feels good for both of you, or at least feels like you're getting somewhere and you're growing.
mhm. It's such a great conversation to have, Lisa, because I really feel that we're evolving out of the idea even that relationships have to be hard, have to be difficult,
Mm,
and
yeah,
that's because really we know and all we understand about relationship is what we've seen in our own
yeah,
lives with our own parents, and that's as much as we I always feel like as much as we get educate ourselves and we go on and we can have degrees and whatever doctorates even, and still not understand about what a healthy relationship looks like. So
yeah,
you know
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just like the basics of our life, and it's like we're highly, highly educated in one area and there's absolutely no education in the other area,
nothing. Yeah,
but
and we don't
actually,
even think about it.
yeah,
Like,
and
it's common
because
sense, isn't it?
yeah, but and that's why, like yourself, when you're driving along and you get these flashbacks about things, and you're going, "I'm an educated woman. Like, how did
Yeah.
I see that?
Mm,
Why?"
mm,
And that was kind of ruling my life for so long.
mm.
It's very humbling.
Yeah, it's very humbling. And I think I sort of still look back now and go, Wow, why couldn't I see and like even patterns, say for example around gambling, it's like um I just couldn't see. I couldn't see the
Mm,
reality of what was happening. And I think there was this real trust and innocence in me. And maybe I always just think this is that the childlike aspect of myself that
mm,
really wants to be loved and wants to feel secure and feels really loved. And so she's the one that's in the relationship, and children don't notice things like that. Like, children are
mm,
innocent, children just love, they don't see their parents faults. And in a way, that part of me was often in those relationships, which was why I couldn't actually see it. And then when I left the relationship, and then I'm stepping into the adult part of me and I'm starting to grow up emotionally, one of the ways that I've started to heal from those relationships is to really get into connection and contact with that childlike part of myself, because I have to know what she's going to do, because
mm.
otherwise she'll just get me into another relationship. She's like this, come on, there's some love over there, let's go get it, right? Let's go get it. And it's like, and I can't
Yeah.
even, it's just so amazing, because it's like our subconscious, that's what our subconscious is doing to us. So I have to be really, really aware, and I have to really know what activates her. I have to know what what the feeling is like
Mm,
when that aspect of myself feels unloved or feels a bit insecure. And then when I feel the feeling, I meet that need myself. Like, I'm there and I'm parenting myself. And so she doesn't need to go outside to get those needs met. She could actually come to me. And that's been me retraining myself
mm,
so that next time I get into a relationship, I can turn up as my whole self, not as a person that needs them to be meeting parts of me that I can't meet myself. And
mm.
I believe that in a relationship where you can be your whole self, you can actually keep growing. And there is still conflict, but you're co-creating the relationship rather than being in that repetitive cycle that you feel all the time. It's like this feeling
Mm.
loop that you just stay in, recycling the same old feelings of
So
toxicity.
what are the practices, Lisa, that you've used, to kind of move yourself from that? As in on a when you're talking about coming back to building your self-esteem, like we talked about in the
Mm.
description of this. Because I think a lot of people don't even understand what that is. What is
Mm.
self-esteem? How do we start to, like, it's a word, but
I know.
it is trying to make that a feeling, isn't it? To
Yeah, it is.
esteem yourself.
It
How do
is, it
you
is, and,
feel
I
like
used to do that with my kids all the time, just tell them, like, that stage, I don't know if you went through it, but, like, this is, like, 30 years ago when my eldest children were little, and it was just like, just telling them things would build their self-esteem, and it's like, "No, it doesn't work like that,"
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
if only. But there is some of that too. So some of the things that I've noticed is that when I look back on some of the behaviors that I had in a toxic relationship and some of the things I didn't see, rather than giving myself a hard time, I replay the event in my mind with me being empowered and me saying what I could have said and with me seeing
Mm,
the reality. So I replay things in my mind. I have a lot of compassion for myself, but I notice that if I replay certain scenarios and I change them to me being in my power and not being the person that was just had a head in the sand or wasn't seeing
mm,
things, then I'm actually building my self-esteem rather than chipping away at my self-esteem, because chipping away at my self-esteem is like, oh, you silly idiot, you shouldn't have done that, or blah 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 blah.
mm, mhm.
But the other thing that that does is that when I get into a similar situation next time, because I've role played it in my head, and if
Yes.
somebody speaks to me like that or is like that to me, I've already gone through it. I already know the words. I've already done the
Mm,
actions.
mm,
And
mhm.
so I'm more ready to actually approach the situation from a position of feeling empowered rather than powerless.
Yeah, and I
So
imagine
that's
it's a
one of
little I imagine
sorry.
that's a little bit wobbly when you start off, maybe, like the training wheels, like
Yeah.
when you're trying
Yeah.
to change a behavior and you're starting to stand up for yourself, and not in an aggressive way, but actually just creating healthy
Yeah.
boundaries, because that's what it's all
Yeah.
about. We get into those relationships when we don't have healthy boundaries. We don't have healthy boundaries if we don't have any self-esteem. So it's a practice
Mm.
in kind of creating that boundary around yourself and knowing that you're valuable. And from my mystical mindset as well, that I look at it as in, like, if seeing yourself as a unique being in the world that's here for a purpose, and that it's really detrimental. It's a detrimental to everybody, or not just ourselves, not to be valuing
Mm,
that, that
yeah, I
unique
love that.
creation in the world,
Mm,
that's fabulous creation, that there's only one of you in the whole cosmos, you know,
yeah, yeah,
not
so
another one.
true. Yeah,
And
so
that has
true.
to be really valued and loved and esteemed for that, like a diamond, it's just
Mm,
so I think, like, to have that feeling sensor body creates a natural boundary then, because
mm,
you tend to, it's like anything else just will not, it kind of repels you. I don't know if
yeah,
you went through a stage like that,
yeah,
feeling
I totally agree.
repelling, disgust, this kind of like as if you just can't allow it into your system.
That's right, and I found too that there's actually a tangible feeling, like you just
Mm,
can't be near
mm,
those feel or those people that are operating like that. Like it just like
mm,
almost pushes. I've had an experience. It almost felt like I've been pushed away energetically. But I think for me, the biggest thing, like you're talking about boundaries there. So what I've found is I've actually never really gone, I've got to set boundaries. And like you said
mm,
it, like natural
mm,
boundaries. So for me, the natural boundary happens when I use my past relationship, now that I'm out of it, to do the investigation and go, well, why did I choose that partner? What was it in me that actually needed a partner like that to feel okay? And often
mm,
then that's when I start to find parts of me that like needs of my own that I haven't met. So for me, it might be not good enough, or yeah, for me, it was always not good enough, right? So I was always wanting to feel good enough, good enough, good enough, and be loved. And because I'd felt abandoned as a child, like there was that fear of being abandoned as well. So I really had to get in touch with those things that were going on just below the level of my conscious awareness. And I had to take responsibility for them, because while ever I didn't understand them and didn't know how to actually fill myself up with worth, and do things that are worthy, really empower myself so that I can see the wound playing out. If something happens and I know I'm operating from not good enough, I can see the wound playing out and I can choose to do another behavior.
mm,
But I had to be able to meet those needs so that I could actually heal from that relationship, because otherwise I'm just taking all the pain.
mm.
And the next time I travel with it into another relationship, it's just worse, because I
Yeah.
still haven't seen the areas in me that are like voids, if you like, the void of not feeling
Mm.
worthy, or the void of the fear of abandonment. Those voids, if I don't learn how to fill them myself in between relationships, then I'll just be, as soon as someone comes along and goes, "Hey, I've got something to pour in there," you know,
You're
I'm
like, "Yes,
just
please."
like it's like I was
Woohoo!
hitching a ride on the next pirate ship. Yeah, I'm jumping on board. And like, what are you
Yeah.
gonna
Like,
get? You're not gonna
it's
get
like,
anything that's
main line in a drug, the love drug, It's like, "Here
yeah,
we go again," you know? Yeah, and,
yeah,
like, trying to pull
that's
you back,
exactly
so
right.
but I think
So I
actually,
think
the feeling of your feelings, like what you talk about all the time, like, is so important to actually allow yourself, the way afterwards, and you talked about, the flashbacks and different things that'll come up into your consciousness. That's always happened for a reason, for it to be processed.
yeah,
So, like you're saying, giving yourself that long pause in between to kind of
yeah,
digest
absolutely.
all the experiences that have happened,
Yeah,
and then how the
yeah,
feeling
absolutely.
experiences. So I
Because we
love
don't you
that.
see it a lot, don't you? Like, you see people often going from one relationship to the other and repeating the same
Mm,
patterns, or they're getting worse. And I mean, I think
mm,
we've all had an experience similar to that somewhere along the lines in our lives,
mhm, mhm,
So
mhm,
it is allowing ourselves space, even though we feel uncomfortable, even though we feel lonely, learning how to meet those needs ourselves, giving ourselves the space to actually reflect back and let the emotions process, like the pain
mm,
process, the hurt process, really nourishing ourselves and using those. And like you said, what I find, those memories that come up of past relationships, or the relationship that you were recently in, and when you see things that you didn't see, actually
mm.
using them as, this is information that I can use to learn more about myself,
Yeah.
so that next time I'm not going to make the same mistakes.
Mm,
Next time when I see those certain things, I'm actually going to be aware, because I've increased my awareness as a result of the hurt that I had back then. So, like always, I mean, the one thing that I think I did, which really helped all the time, was just remind myself this is an opportunity for me to take back my power. And every time I might feel a hurt or a pain, it's like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to take back my power. What is this telling me that I need to look at right now? Do I just need to process some emotion and just sit and just be gentle with myself, or do I actually need to have a look at this and learn something from this feeling that's coming up? So
Yeah.
it's a great time. Just such an amazing time after you leave a toxic relationship to make sure that you don't attract another toxic relationship and consciously choose who you want to be loved by. Make a conscious choice about who you want to be in a relationship with. And that's something that like I didn't do,
Yeah, and
you
I think
know. And
that's huge in building a quality life, the life that you want, that's true to you. They always talk about, and one point I'd love to make as well is that, just even the idea of like, even for my parents when they passed away, and I realized about myself that such a massive giver, give all the time. And that now I realize that there's kind of a resistance to caring for myself. It's like because I've never done it before. So it's like having to train myself to do the opposite of what I've
yeah,
normally done, my normal pattern, because the pattern is built in, it's in a groove, But to
yeah,
try and do the opposite, and I'm noticing because of my health issue that I've had to do that. But I've also noticed like that's part of my pattern that I haven't been trained to do that, to turn the love back onto myself. And there's a real kind
mm,
of resistance. So it's like as if I'm having to kind of consciously do things to care for myself, even though the resistance comes up. And even like I was talking about the
mm,
weekend, like I went for a couple of, I've gone for 3 massages at this point because I was getting radiation treatment done. And like if this weekend I was going, Caroline, you don't really need to go. Why do you need to go? That's a bit extravagant, go for another massage. And then I was like, Caroline, like, you need to do this. You're looking after yourself. And the way it's just that mantra that goes on, like, you're fine. What would you want that for? You're kind of devaluing your own
yeah,
self-care. So I've noticed that, and I think that's a huge, just across all relationships in your life. Like if you
mm,
put the care into yourself as number one, and not just love, because people talk about love, it's a bit up in the air, but the care is like the conscious actions
mm,
that you take every day
mm,
that support your well-being,
mm, yeah,
you know, mentally,
yeah,
emotionally, physically, spiritually,
yeah,
that you're filling yourself up. So then you can go then from that point
yeah.
onwards and give from a place of feeling in the fullness of life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And my final word to say, because I think that's a beautiful practical action. My final word, which includes that, is really this is about practicing being in relationship with yourself. So the better your relationship with yourself is, then all future relationships are going to be impacted by that. So that's the best way to heal from a toxic relationship is use it to be in this incredible relationship with yourself so that you feel so amazing being in your own body. You really love your life and you feel empowered.
Yeah.
Best way to heal.
That's it, Lisa. And you've heard it from the emotional whisperer. So I'd listen to that. Great advice.
Thanks,
Well,
Caroline. And I'm glad to hear you're having massages. No one would have to hold me back. If someone said, "Oh, you go have a massage," I go, "Yep, I'll be there on
yeah,
the
everybody will
table."
be out for massages now. Start a trend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thank-
everyone. Well, thank you so much again for listening, and thanks, Caroline.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.
Great
Thank you
chat
so
as
much.
usual.
And we'll see you back here on Wednesday. And thank you so much for the comments and any other questions posed to us, and we'll answer them as best we can.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll
take
be
care,
answering
everyone.
that. Okay, thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.